Hello and welcome to this week's episode of Club Thrive, the podcast with me, Kate Sterling, exhibiting exemplary ADHD behaviour over here, where I have just started de-dusting the flat because I feel like Sienna might have a dust allergy. And I suddenly thought, it'd be so good to do a podcast episode on the money post that I did today on Instagram, all about money mindset and really stepping into your full potential with whether it's overcoming financial stress or just embracing the challenges that we might have around money. And then I thought, maybe it'd be a great idea to try doing something different with the podcast, actually doing it on camera, putting the video out on YouTube, putting the video into Spotify and just saying, let's just see what happens. Because, in true nature of creative entrepreneurship, we have these ideas and the ADHD impulsivity is like, I must act on them. And this balance of sitting with those impulsives and acknowledging when they're helpful and when they're not helpful. And today this felt fun. I've got the time. I wanted to come and try some new stuff anyway. And I think this is my invitation to you as a creative business owner to embrace these parts of you. And I think as well, I don't know if you can relate to this, but, for me, having had a daughter 3 years ago, a lot of you have been here since the beginning. A lot of you have known me perhaps for a couple of years since I started Sterling Fit back in 2020 during the pandemic. And part of me does wonder sometimes how much of how we are living now, say it's 2025, doing this podcast episode now, how many of us are still living in that time of such reactivity where we did have to take everything online and that was amazing. And then we just became so used to constantly pivoting or constantly reacting to things that actually living in the now and living at a slower pace feels so unnatural because we were so used to just waking up, hearing different news every day that we had to respond to. As business owners, we were constantly having to change how we worked. We were going online, offline, online, in person. There were rules changing all the time. And over the last kind of couple of years, really, I've started to really question how much of that way of living was still coming into my day to day. And also alongside when you have something like ADHD or a very creative mind that is so alive all the time with this energy physically as well, and this need to feel things, and if we don't kind of feed that urge, we end up feeling like we're stagnant energetically, or we have frustrations, or we have built up emotional regulation challenges with whether it's ourselves, with our daughters, with our partners, that then feed into our careers, which then creates that scatty mindset, which then creates the mess that we create. I've just kind of gesticulated to the chair, the dumping chair of joy over there. And I mean, compared to a couple of months ago, my bedroom floor is actually looking pretty clear. But, these things that we have, these characteristics that we have grown up with, not always knowing that they are perhaps ADHD or just have blamed ourselves for being a bit messy. And I think as I continue to try and really step into my own potential to help you do the same, because ultimately that's what it's about, living as I want to help you live too. I can only really, it's only right for me to be doing that as well. Otherwise I'm kind of hypocritical in a way if I'm not also following that and kind of facing up to my own fears and helping you face up to your fears and helping you to acknowledge the challenges that you have, whether you're diagnosed with ADHD or not, whether you just resonate with a lot of the stuff that maybe you've read about it, or the challenges, whether it's with organization or focus or energy or money, spending, comfort eating, restriction, all of these characteristics that perhaps I have, when I got the and that was a classic example there, wasn't it? Like you start one thought and then you have another. But last year, when I decided to explore the ADHD diagnosis, it was because I truly and utterly was struggling with feeling like I could build a business that was consistently going to sustain me alongside being a parent, alongside energetically fulfilling my needs. And I think this is the most important thing. And it's why I've kind of gone on this tangent before I start talking about money, because a lot of this is about you really getting honest about what you want and who you are and how you best thrive. And that can change, right? So if we're still trying to thrive as if we were living in 2020, not having children, not having the challenges that we have now, like a lot has changed in that time, but we're still living with the mindset or the physical kind of embodiment of that time in our system energetically. And what I mean by that is that we are still responding to life as if we're living in 2020, but we're not. Things have changed and there's different stresses or there's different opportunities, but we're still living as if we're in 2020. We are also unable to truly live in the now to fulfill our potential now. And that means sometimes acknowledging what has changed and acknowledging where we are now and what we're worrying about now and what we want now, because who we are as individuals has changed too, which is why I'm doing this on the bedroom floor. looking at all these ways to experiment to really also, if I'm perfectly honest, grow the podcast and grow my connection and my following, but also my connection with you. And I think I've had, I've had a lot of fear around that, and I've held back a lot because I had a lot of issues with my own self-worth after my divorce, after a lot of those things that happened there, which I now recognize is connected to ADHD, which I now recognize the rejection that I felt in that time, the sensitivity to that, the rejection dysphoria almost, is because I have ADHD. And even acknowledging that, I'm like, oh God, that's an important piece of information that I now have. But if I'm also living as if that's not true, then I'm still denying parts of myself. And so much of the work, ever since I worked in fitness coaching, is all about you truly being yourself and taking off those masks, whether you have ADHD or not, whatever your gender. But, I guess this is the other thing, is I always try to help everyone. I'm like a classic people pleaser. And I think just my own acknowledgement here of just really understanding who I can best help. And I think that's probably you, which is why you're watching this or listening to this, is, you're probably a woman, you probably have a creative mind, you're probably an artist or a creator or a solopreneur, or just have never kind of stuck with one job, or you've always felt a bit different. You're probably a woman or someone that feels different from their gender, who has never quite understood their gender maybe, or where they've placed in the world has always felt a bit different, and yet is also someone that is different because we're not following the traditional norms, and how that has impacted us with our careers, and embracing that rather than celebrating that, rather than being like, okay, well, I have to do it like this because that's what that person has told me to do, and instead saying how are you best able to sustain this, like what is going to actually keep you going in a way that is well and enjoyable for you to continue, so that you don't keep burning out and you don't keep coming into those cycles of comfort eating and comfort drinking, comfort spending, whatever it is, and to say, okay, here I am, hello. So this is what I'm doing this morning from my bedroom floor. Well, it's probably the afternoon now. And also I do genuinely want to give you some tangible tips today. I have been unpacking the money mindset stuff on our club, or on my personal page actually, on Kate Sterling, but we'll talk about it more within Club Thrive, because the whole idea of Club Thrive is to keep bringing together this mindset and this community of individuals who are, really ambitious, and who perhaps have felt embarrassed about that, who felt maybe shame about that, who have really held back from taking up that space. Like on that board that I've got over there, the whiteboard, it says our greatest fear is not that we're inadequate, but our greatest fear is that we are powerful beyond belief, which is a Marianne Williams quote. I hope I've got that right. I might not have done. But anyway, I'll put it in the show notes. We are scared of our power. We are scared of our potential. We are fearful of that because, especially as women, I think we've been told to keep it small, keep quiet, stay back, maybe that is also an ADHD thing. And I think this is where it's hard for me to differentiate, because I genuinely don't know. You might have experienced that and not have ADHD or not be neurodiverse. And it doesn't really matter. It's more about your experience of life. And when it comes to money, this is one of the things that I have worked on so much over the last couple of years, with whether it's, we want to call it money mindset. So the mindset that we have around money, the mindset about what we believe we are allowed, what we feel comfortable having, and then the rejection of that and what we are worried about, whether it is with having more money or our association with that. Mine definitely deeply roots into my self-worth, in terms of I don't believe I'm allowed, and a lot of it because of associating perhaps decisions, mistakes, choices a long time ago that I'm still carrying now. And much like what I was saying about the pandemic, I am still living in some ways like I was as a result of some choices back in maybe 2014, 2013, some of which weren't even my fault. And I think this understanding as well, where we carry situations, experiences mentally, subconsciously, without even realizing it, that we're bringing into the present day that aren't actually our responsibility to carry. If you've been, I've worked with people who have, in their childhood, have very difficult situations with parents, and that comes into their present day because they're still carrying that experience. They're still worrying about the impact for their parent, even if the parent isn't around anymore. But that we carry that so physically, so mentally, so emotionally, which is why it's never just about mindset. It's also about how you feel in your body and the responses that you're having physically, to work together with your nervous system, with your breath, with your energy, with your posture, with your thoughts, to create this reality for yourself that enables you to feel your potential and to make it feel like that's a safe thing for you to do. Because ultimately, safety is about making things that feel nerve-wracking or unfamiliar familiar. That's, when we talk about imposter syndrome, that's what it's about. It's about being in a new environment that you're not familiar in. You don't know it yet to feel confident in it, but it doesn't mean you won't feel confident by the kind of continuous exposure to that environment alongside changing the mindset. And I think this is where, as I dance around, and as we dance around, perhaps you're dancing around it too as a business owner, getting into the crux of what you really want to do, who you really want to help, what you really want to charge, and just acknowledging that, like, that is part of the process. It's just to acknowledge what is coming up with it, so we don't squash it away, so we don't deny it, so we don't say, that we're not struggling with something, but we acknowledge it, and then we say, okay, well, how would I rather feel? What would I rather have? And then to say, hang on, but I'm also judging what I want. Why? And so my invitation to you today is to explore your thoughts around money. What do you think of when you think about money? Is it that you think of really negative people in power at the minute? Because let's face it, the global landscape is full of white men who are seemingly destroying stuff. If we associate that with money and power, we don't want that. Probably, if you're listening to this podcast, you don't want that. So it's understanding as well that your beliefs around what you're seeing is potentially stopping you from actually having what you'd really like, because you're thinking that if you have that money or that power, you're going to be like these people that are destroying the world, in your mind, or in my mind, in our minds. And to keep unpacking what you think around money, is it that people that drive certain cars are bad people? Is it that people have big houses are greedy? Is it that actually people that have nice clothes are wasting their money? Is it that is intimidating? My coach a little while ago, I was talking about how I felt about this confusion that I was having about identity and clothing and showing up and looking after myself and really wanting to wear lovely nice clothes, but then not allowing it because of an association with maybe that being vain or showy offy or whatever. And then, my coach reflected back to me that I was intimidated potentially by these women. And I was like, holy shit, I think you're right. I think I was intimidated by that. And it's also where if we don't see ourselves as that type of person, then we don't allow that to become our reality, because you're like, well, I'm not that person. Whether it's a successful CEO or an actor or a writer or a creative or a public figure. If we don't associate with that, we don't think that we can become that, because we're like, well, I'm not that person. So what I'm saying to you here is that you don't have to be like anyone else. That's the whole point. The whole point is that you are like yourself, and that how you appear on the outside is an exact reflection of your inside world, of your thoughts, of your feelings, of your experiences, and that how we live and our behaviors and our actions are then what create the outside world. They are what create the world, the bedroom. They are what create the wardrobe. It's like when I used to have fitness clients that would say, but I'm not a runner, because they would think, oh, well, a runner is someone like Paula Radcliffe, or, an Olympic sprinter who looks a certain way, who dresses a certain way, who runs in a certain way. And actually, I'd always say to them, but actually, if you put on the clothes, you put on the trainers and you put on a sports bra, you're a runner. Like, you just need to do the action of running to become a runner. But because of the world that we live in now that is so presented, if we don't present too, then it's like, well, we don't fit in. And so also if there's like a disconnect between that, you feel like you have to present in a certain way to be a certain thing, to be accepted or to be successful or whatever it is, you're going to exhaust yourself. Because it's not to say you can't present yourself in a certain way, but when it comes from the inside out, when it's that organic energy, oh my God, then that is just so freeing. That is where you do wear what you want to wear and you feel really good. You feel really free. You feel really confident because you're not trying to be anyone else other than yourself. And when it comes to money, this comes into it because it affects how we charge. It affects what we charge, whether you're a coach, whether you are an actor, whether you are a writer, whether you are even a teacher. It impacts what you are able to receive. And this is where this self-worth piece comes in, because we have to acknowledge where we are blocking receiving back the energy that we are giving out. Money is an energetic source, right? So when we think of burnout and or energy, we think about let me start again. When you burn out, it's because what you are giving out energetically is greater than what you are receiving. So whether that's time, energy, money, love, whatever it is, if you are giving it out and you're not getting it back in, you're not recharging, you're not fueling it yourself. It's like if you go for days without eating, you're not fueling yourself back and in to have the energy to keep on going, which is why it's such a cycle, which is why if you have a 6-figure job, but you're exhausted and burnt out, it's because perhaps what you are giving for that money is actually greater than what that money needs to be. Perhaps actually you need 7 figures for the job that you're doing. This is why actually the numbers on the page don't mean that much unless you are looking at it in the bigger picture of what you are receiving and giving out in that exchange of the money. And it's why doing this work, honestly, is so empowering, especially if you are a woman, especially if you are someone who has had challenges with money, whether that's your relationship with it, whether that's funding, spending, or receiving, being paid for the work, this kind of broke artist mentality that Julia Cameron talks about in The Artist Way. As artists, we love that work. We love helping people. If you're a coach, a heart-led business owner, you love helping people. You feel bad for receiving money because you feel like you should, or you think that you should give that for free because you love doing it. And to receive money for that is wrong, because we are taught that earning money is like we should work hard for it. We should be exhausted. We have to do certain jobs to earn certain amounts of money. And it is that mentality that stops us and keeps us stuck. And it's also this balance with how we feel in our body thinking about that. So when you think about money, those reactions that you're feeling are important. This is true for everything. Keep developing your self-awareness and your responses to things, because it's giving you information. Oh, what's that tightness on my left shoulder as I think about raising my prices, or that crunch in my stomach as I think about being paid £100,000 for a TV episode, whatever it is, or to think, well, that's not possible for me, that's ridiculous, that's massive. And to say we don't have to do these big jumps overnight, we can incrementally change. You can incrementally raise your prices. You don't even have to raise your prices. It's just understanding your relationship with all these things, to understand what you need, to understand what you want to give, to understand what you want to receive, to understand what you are blocking in that reception of, whether it's money, time, love, whatever, because it is all linked. And yes, we must also consider financial stress. We must also consider our true situation. And this is the other piece to it. If you are feeling stressed financially, if you're worried about money, get very clear on a daily basis about what is true about those worries. Often we are worrying about things in the future, or we're worrying about not having work even when we have work. We're worrying about money running out even when we have money. If we are thinking like that, we create stress in our body that drives our behaviors to, ironically, sometimes spend more money. Sometimes it means that we end up getting takeaways because we feel like we have to work all the time, because saying no to work is stressful, and we're worried about not having money, and then we don't have time or energy to go and buy decent, nutritious food. So we get a takeaway because we're exhausted. The irony there is that we spend more money on the takeaway than what we would have done if we had the energy, having said no to the work, to create a meal at home that gives you more energy and time to say yes to jobs that are actually going to further your career. The self-trust piece in this is vast. To kind of understand that what we experience emotionally, mentally, physically does not necessarily dictate the true reality of your experience. And to understand that when we live in response to emotions all the time, often we are living out of stress, lack, or fear. And that to understand that when we bring ourselves to a calm, grounded place in our body, that is where you can make a truly aligned decision. What if actually everything works out? What if actually it's safe for you to charge more money? What if by having money you are able to give more? And to flip your way of thinking so that actually it becomes a safer alternative to have money than to not have money. Because this is the other thing as well. This is why we read stories about, people that win the lottery that end up spending all the money because it's so stressful to have this money. Deep down, maybe they don't believe they actually deserve it and they don't think it's real. And it's like, I need to get rid of it. I need to give it away, which is also fine. None of this is good, bad, right, or wrong. It's about understanding where you are in the piece of all of this, to understand what you need, what you want, what you deny yourself in that, to break through that, to allow yourself to be yourself, to live your fullest thriving life. And some of the biggest fears that I've had come up around this have been around the guilt and the shame, like I said, about past life experiences. And also the fear of being different to people I love, to having more money than my family, to having more money than my friends, to having more success in inverted commas, to being seen as bigger than other people, and to be like, well, I don't want that. I don't want anyone else to feel bad. But then we keep ourselves small, and this drives that behavior as well, and those choices that we make that keeps us small, that keeps us unfulfilled, that stops us from thriving, that truly stops you from actually fulfilling potential, which ironically drives all these other behaviors that we have that comfort us but keep us unwell, that keep us stressed, whether it's comfort eating, comfort drinking, avoiding actually taking the risks, or being kind of putting ourselves first as parents. And I think this is where the ADHD piece comes in as well, because especially if you're someone that has never quite understood your own potential, or never felt like you fully tapped into that, it's often because we're trying to fit into, it's a square peg round hole analogy. We're trying to become someone that we're not, based on what we have seen to be accepted around us. And actually, a lot of this is to say we don't know sometimes what's going to happen until we try it. So, it might be that you're a parent that's worried about overcommitting to work and not being there as a parent. We don't know that actually until we try, until we take the job. I might want to go off and be a really, work as an actor. And deep down, I'm worried about that impact on my family. But I won't know the true impact of that until I try it. Likewise with this video, I have no idea how this is going to land. I'm hoping deep down secretly that it's going to blow up, and finally after 10 years I'll go viral. But also that has been something to work on, because I have hesitated about creating stuff that puts me in that limelight, that puts me out to be seen, which is why Dare to Be Seen, the group program that I've run, is all about helping you to understand the blocks that you have about being seen. All the blocks you have about whether it's your self-belief or your confidence or your body image or what you believe you're worth, your self-worth, your self-esteem. All of this links into how we show up and how we put ourselves into the world. Whether that's linked to past experiences, things that you have been told as a child, or at school, or even the life lessons that you've learned through making painful mistakes, and understanding that you're not that same person now, and where you are still holding back out of that shame or guilt that you might be carrying from those times, with self-compassion to say, but I'm not that person now, I've changed, I've grown. And I've kind of I used to see it as I've done my time. I'm allowed to have great things now. I've done my time. But also it's understanding what is yours to take responsibility for and what is yours to not take responsibility for. We are never responsible for everything. This is true too, to let go of trying to control other people's reactions. Some people, if you were to earn more money, yeah, they're going to judge that, but that's on them and not on you. And that doesn't actually change your morality as an individual. That does not change who you are. When you make these choices based on integrity and in alignment with your values as a human, you're a decent human. Otherwise you wouldn't be listening to this podcast. When you make choices in alignment with who you truly are, you're not going out there to make money to cause pain or hurt or suffering. If people feel pain, hurt, or suffering in response to you earning money, it's probably that they also feel whether it's left out or like you have abandoned them for something else. And that's on them and not on you, if you have actually made choices that have considered them. I can consider all of my family and all of this and all of my friends and say, okay, but actually earning more money or having a more successful career in inverted commas doesn't change me as a person, doesn't make me a bad person. It means that I'm someone that can actually then take time off to be there and be present because I'm fulfilled. I can actually be ahead of my schedule and go out to Australia to see my family rather than just trying to have phone calls with them. We can deepen those connections and we can have a greater impact. But until we sit with the discomfort that we have around earning money and actually fulfilling our potential and being ourselves and trusting ourselves and embracing every single messy part of us, we are going to constantly feel cluttered because we are cluttering out of stress. We are layering on top of us to stop ourselves from being truly seen. We are holding back in some way. And this is to say, my invitation to you today is to say, let's just sit with it. Let's just acknowledge it. Let's just say, welcome to the conversation, welcome to the table. And, what are you experiencing when it comes to stress around money? What is true about that? If you were to actually look at your bank accounts, look at your living situation financially today, what is true about the worries that you're having for tomorrow? Often they're worries about things that are in the future. So every day, do your best to come back to living in the moment to moment of what is true about your situation right now. If we have more stress about these things, it impacts our behavior and stops us sometimes from actually really like fulfilling what we're capable of fulfilling when it comes to completion of tasks, of doing the things we want to do. They just constantly get into that cycle of like, I'll do it tomorrow, I'll do it tomorrow, I'll do it tomorrow. And it's also this acknowledgement of balancing the genuine anxiety that you might feel, oh God, I should be paying into a pension, I'm not doing it yet, I'll do it tomorrow. And actually, if we live day to day as if we have the money, if we have the financial security, which often we do in the day-to-day moment, then we can start to make the choice of, oh, well, if I had the money, I would then put money into a pension pot. So that we can actually start to do that today, because we associate needing to have money to put into a pot as bigger than what it needs to be. It just needs to be like 10p a day, 1p a day, 1p a day. It doesn't have to be massive. Same as receiving in money. You don't have to completely quadruple your prices. What if you just raise them by £5? People generally are not going to notice that. You're not going to but your nervous system might freak out about that. So let's just embrace that, and let's just understand your physical reactions and unpack them to understand what's going on, so you can keep breaking through them. So you break the cycles. This is how you break the cycle, the pattern of behaviors that are holding you back. And also from that standpoint of understanding who you are and the challenges that you have, whether it's ADHD, whether it's a different type of neurodiversity, whether it's injury, whether it's a pivot that you're needing to make with your career because life has changed, whether it's understanding that actually as a parent, this is what I'm learning, as a parent, actually we have a different capacity, a massive different capacity. We can't keep operating as if we don't have children anymore. We have children, or we have a child. That has changed hugely our capacity mentally. And we must adjust to fit that and to welcome that rather than fighting it, and say, okay, let's not make that another reason to feel more stressed. Let's just kind of keep waking up every day, understanding how you want to feel about money, for example. Like, how would you like to feel about money? And every day choosing that as how you are feeling about it with the evidence that you have. If you want to feel financially free and every day you're feeling like you have no money, like this awareness of you getting clear on your table what you have financially and saying, actually tomorrow, if I needed to buy a coffee or wanted to buy coffee, could I do that? Yes, I could. That's financial freedom. We have financial freedom in a very broad scope compared to what some people have. And it's understanding the different levels of that to understand then how to create the energy that gives you, because then that's going to bring more financial freedom in. That's going to impact how you live and breathe and make decisions. It's going to impact your energy, your self-belief, your confidence, which helps you to genuinely take bigger steps because you're not holding back so much anymore, which impacts how you eat, how you sleep, how you move, which impacts how you feel in your body, which again impacts how you show up, which impacts your posture, your presence. It's this elevation and this expansion continuously of you as an individual energetically, because energetically, the more you give out and the more open you are to receiving, the more you will receive back. That is how you book the jobs. That is how you get the clients. That is how you build a life that is built around joy and freedom and self-expression to thrive, rather than having to fit into everyone else's box. This is how you get dressed in a way that feels really cool, fun and exciting without self-judgment, without feeling like it's vain, without worrying about everyone looking at you. How you find peace of body and mind. It's all part of the same process. We must pause to acknowledge the 4 P's of progress. We must pause to acknowledge what we're feeling. We must process that feeling. We must then proceed with the choice that's going to make us move towards progress. And it is those daily tiny steps, that little compound effect that helps you to get to where you want to go. Living every day as if you were already there. Because if we're constantly also thinking, well, I'll be happy when I'm over there. I'll be happy when I have that money. I'll be happy when I have that body. I'll be happy when I have that job. I'll be happy when I have that title. We're always living in that space between. I'll be happy when. So today I'm not happy because I have less. When we wake up every day and we acknowledge what we have, we are living in the energy of you have that already. You have that. It doesn't mean you can't make change. It just means that you're living every day from a place of less stress, less anxiety, more confidence, more joy, more natural energy. And that is truly a way to live. And that gives you space still to not avoid or deny your true feelings. That still gives you space to say, this is hard, I'm feeling grief, I'm feeling shock, I'm feeling all of these other things, I'm feeling guilty. It does not deny those feelings. It allows them to exist in the day-to-day. But if we live more day-to-day rather than kind of like over there, then we can make the steps every day that get us over there. But actually, it's always an evolving thing. It's always moving. Life is always moving. And it's no wonder, especially for ADHD, or you have that that undercurrent pace of life that's like, fuck, it's so fast, I can't keep up. You're like, oh God, I gotta go, I gotta go, I gotta go. We have to be the ones to slow down that pace. It is a choice to slow down the pace of life. It is the choice to slow down the breath, the body, the choice to slow down the mind. And until you choose to do that, it's going to constantly feel like you can never keep up across the board. So anyway, I'm really excited. I've really enjoyed doing this on the bedroom floor. I hope, let's just see how it lands. I really would love to keep connecting with you, and I want to welcome in anyone who is feeling like they don't know what I'm talking about, or are confused, or feel like that was massively overwhelming. And I really would just love for you to come and say hi on social media. Come and follow us on Instagram. We're at Club Thrive _. Follow the YouTube channel if you've watched this on YouTube. Hello. Follow on Spotify. Hello if you're watching on Spotify. I think one of my biggest things, my biggest pet peeves, is the high performance space is so dominated by white men. And I just think that high performance is holistic. High performance is all about you fulfilling your potential. And I want for every individual, every woman, every mum to feel like they have purpose and value in this life, regardless of your background right now. I talk about this from, yes, a place of privilege. We accept our privilege. We acknowledge it because that gives you power and energy to make good of your privilege rather than feeling shame and guilt about it. We are all born into different situations, but we have a choice from whatever life experience that we've had. And I'm speaking from experience here of overcoming huge adversity in my life to make a choice to still live a great life. It does not deny the challenges that you've had. It does not deny the things that have happened to you, but it gives you that ownership and that empowerment. Say, I still am going to live a great life, and I'm going to go and see what I can get out of this time alive. And I'm going to go out there and see what I can really push in the boundaries of my own potential, whilst also having a great time. The whole point of Club Thrive is that we have a great time doing it, that life comes before work almost, for work to be able to fuel life. Otherwise, we're just living to work. And really, it is about working to live, and that balance of it, and how work can become part of that ecosystem. You know, that for many of us, work is part of our fulfillment. That's great. Let's celebrate that. How fucking lucky we are that we love our work that much. But it's also on us to put the work down, to say, okay, I also need to recharge in different ways. I need to find other ways of gaining energy, of giving energy out. And so that also stops that cycle of burnout. And so, yeah, I obviously another tangent there, but, you know, I just would love the high performance space and the idea of humans filling potential to not just be about physical potential, about, you know, having to do a high rocks or a marathon, but also about mental potential and the changing of your mindset to what you believe is possible, and then going out there and doing it, regardless of your body or whether it's disabilities or challenges or whatever, so that you as an individual manage to truly fulfill your potential, no matter what anyone else is doing, and in celebration of what everyone else is doing, but acknowledging these things that we have as women that might be extra challenges, whether that is as a mum or as a carer, or whether it is just tapping into that lighter energy alongside the more maybe masculine energy, whether you want to call it masculine, feminine energy or whatever. Like, really, this is just about you going out there and doing your best. And I just would love for there to be more of this natural element of high performance, this natural sense of actually we can have a great life and be high achievers, and it can be quite private. You don't have to share. Yeah, you know, I would probably, like, one day, maybe I will share my bank balance to prove to you what is possible when you come from this place of maybe not having millions in the bank, as a proof of, like, let's just try it, you can do it. But not from this place of, well, you have to do it like this, rather from a place of, how would you like to do it? Let's help you do that. And I think the individuals that have created these podcasts out there now, like, they're great podcasts. I've spent the last 10 years listening to so many podcasts. They've helped truly with my recovery of getting over my divorce, and I have great respect for them. But ultimately, let's get other voices in the ring. Like, let's get some other individuals out there into the space talking about it, like me, who can give a slightly perhaps more holistic view on it all. And just to see how that impacts the world too. Let's see how that can impact how we live, so that it's not just one size fits all, but rather it's your size. And that's great. And let's keep unlocking that. Okay, I'm going to go. So please subscribe to the channel. if you're watching this on YouTube. If you are listening on Spotify, please follow, or on whatever podcast platform you listen on. Come and follow on Instagram at Club Thrive _. And, keep your eyes peeled, because we have in-person meetups starting in Brixton every month from May, which is very exciting. The link to sign up to that, we've got last few places coming up. So get your space on that. Keep your eyes peeled for those new ones too. And also become a member. Like, part of Club Thrive is also about supporting your personal and professional development, but from a place of like, let's have a great time doing it around other like-minded women, non-binary folk, trans women, women who, mums, individuals that are really ambitious, that really want to go and have a great life, that really want to fulfill potential, but also kind of in a very supportive environment where it's also normal to be like, I'm having a really tough time. Because let's not pretend, life is not always rosy. And so we want to work through those times with compassion, without it becoming a massive mope, to keep you moving forwards so that you can keep thriving. I mean, ultimately, that's what it's all about. So you can, if you want to start your podcast, you can just do it. Because look, I'm doing this on a bedroom floor. And there are ways. There's always a way to make something happen. Always. The only thing that stops us is us. And yeah, sure, society and financial things and whatever. But the whole ethos that we have at Club Thrive is that no matter what, we're going to help you achieve those goals. Because really, anything is possible when you believe it to be. Anything is possible. Anything. Look at, people that have achieved great things or created amazing things have just believed that they can, and they've gone out there and done that. And then, yes, of course, there is that whole concept that luck is when opportunity meets preparation. So we want to constantly just be like living every day as if it's happening, because it is. Every day it's happening. Every day it's happening. Okay, I'm never going to do that again. Okay, I will actually sign off now, because maybe this is a really bad ADHD thing of like taking 10 minutes to sign off. It's like I hang up, you hang up. Okay, I really am going to go. I should probably never do this on video. I will do this on video. It's great on video. Okay, have a good one. And please do like, share, follow. Let's keep going, guys. Let's go thrive. I'm excited. Okay, see you later. Bye.